be a country of freedom. It's in the constitution. It's country of freedom. 1 second, please.
America's not a country of freedom.
But I think you guys should show more empathy. It looks like a mob, literally. I think we should be more kinder. We're Israelites, if you say so. So to be
Hey
more
Sam,
kinder.
I think we've been very kind. Yeah. Just because
So
we're questioning doesn't make us a mob. Relax.
I have a question. This we're going nowhere with this is being evaded. So I'll ask a different question. Y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, E.
Okay, my question for Muhammad, if he's still present. Muhammad's who was Muhammad's forefather, or the Arabs' forefather in the Quran? Muhammad, you there?
I'm sorry, I was cut off. Could you repeat the question?
I'm sorry. Who was the forefather of the tribe of Muhammad? The forefather.
He's Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib. He's actually an Arab. He's an Arab man.
And who's the forefather of the Arabs?
In the
Islamic
Bible.
Arabs.
Ismail.
Ishmael. Is that in the Quran?
Well, do the Bible?
No, not the Bible. The Quran. Is Ishmael mentioned as a forefather in the Quran of Muhammad?
Well, the old father of Arabs is before that is Ibrahim, then the son of Ismail, the first one to talk in Arabic. So I guess yeah.
Okay, Abraham, got you. So Abraham and Ishmael are recorded in the Quran. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Who's the forefather? Okay, who is the forefather of the Negroes in the Quran?
Well, actually, in the Quran, it says that all humans are alike. There is no difference between them.
No, Muhammad. No. The Arabs, your forefather is Abraham and Ishmael. We got that.
Okay.
We understand. They were humans long before Abraham. But it's clear in the Quran that the Arabs' forefathers is Abraham and Ishmael. We got that. Who is the forefather of the Negroes? Because many of our people subscribe to your religion, subscribe to Islam, and respectfully so. So I would like, well, not respectfully so, but understood. But who is the ancestor of the Negroes in the
So
Quran?
to ask who the ancestor of the Negroes, you're meaning to say that the Quran is saying the ancestors of the white people is Ibrahim and Ismail.
No.
right?
I'm asking you
No,
who
no,
the
no.
forefather. I'm asking you who the forefather. Like for example, I asked you who the forefather of the Arabs are. You said Abraham and Ishmael. Ishmael is the first to speak Arabic, so therefore the Arab Ishmael and Abraham. Got you. I follow.
Okay.
But so we have a clear understanding of descent when it comes to the Arabs in the Quran. Who is the ancestor of the Negroes in the Quran? Since many of Negroes subscribe to that religion in the Quran.
When you say that, it's like you're asking me who's my grandfather is, who's my grandfather of me, and my brother is, and I say that the name. I tell you the name of my grandfather. Then you ask me who's the grandfather of your brother. I tell you it's the same grandfather. So your question is not right.
Oh my God.
You get me?
Muhammad, no.
Good.
I think you're falling
Let me
off the
ask you.
horse.
Let me ask you.
Wait.
Let me ask you this question.
Before you
Hold
answer
on,
the
hold
question,
on, Muhammad.
let me clarify. Let me clarify. Wait. Let me just clarify. All I asked is a simple question. You said that the forefather of the Arabs is Abraham and Ishmael. I got it. Who
Okay.
is the biblical forefather of the Negro in the Quran? That's all I'm asking you. Not your grandfather, but particularly, but the Arabs themselves. You said it's Abraham and Ishmael. Who is the forefather of the Negroes in the Quran? It's very simple, biblical. Who is the biblical forefather of the Negroes in the Quran?
It's the same
Do you
for
know? Yes or
father.
no?
It's
not
the
the
same for father.
No, it's not. He said
Who's
it's the
same
forefather?
for father.
Wait. Which one? Which forefather? Which
Ibrahim and
one?
Ismail. It's the same for father. It's
He
Abraham
said
and who?
He said Ishmael.
you're trying to separate between the
Muhammad.
whites and the black.
Muhammad.
You're trying to do that.
Muhammad, listen to me. You said Abraham, right? You said Abraham's our father,
Yes.
Negro father? Okay,
Yes.
which son of Abraham are we? You
Which
Ishmael, right? Y'all are
what?
Ishmael. Which father is which one? Which child of it is out? Which child of Abraham is us? Where we
I'm
come
not
from?
sure of that. I would be lying if I
Okay,
say that.
that's
So
all. Oh, you're not sure. Okay, you're not sure. I don't believe it, but okay, you're not sure. All right.
All right.
Give me my mic.
Can I chime in real quick, Muhammad? Earlier you mentioned you had a PhD. I don't know why, but
nah, I didn't say that.
okay. Now there's a so-called scholar from your country. His name is Dr. Ahmed El Gundi. Repeat that again, Dr. Ahmed El Gundi. He stated himself that the Negroes are the Jews. Us in America, here, scattered in
No, it's
America,
not.
scattered in the Eastern Hemisphere, we are the Israelites. We are the biblical descendant of those Jews. This is an Arab man from Egypt that stated this. I'll repeat his name again.
That's not true.
Dr. Ahmed El Gundi. He stated that. He
Yeah,
knows that
I'm
the
telling
Negroes,
that's not
he
true.
said that the Negroes, Muhammad, hold on. He said that the Negroes in America are the Jews. And there are many Arabic scholars who have this written in their text, in their thesis for their PhDs. They know who they enslaved during the sub-Saharan slave trade. They know who we are. They know who are these so-called black African Americans in America and scattered abroad. So I have a hard time believing that you don't know that the Negroes come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And you were correct. The Arabs come from Abraham, Ishmael, and Kedar, and whoever the hell came out of his loins. Mute my mic.
Was the question ever answered why Muslims enslave black people? And because they run around the bush. Then nobody is
Wasn't
not one
it?
Yeah,
Muslim has
you're gonna
answered
you're
that yet.
gonna you're gonna you're gonna tell me that I'm lying, but I wasn't given the opportunity to answer that question. So I
Because you
told you
ain't answer the
before.
question, Muhammad.
I
Yeah,
told
I'm
you
still
in the
waiting
first.
for my answer, Muhammad.
Look. I told
Go
you
ahead
in
and
the
answer,
first.
Muhammad.
So you keep saying I didn't answer and trying to answer,
Go
and
ahead, go ahead,
you
go
keep
ahead, go ahead,
interrupting.
sir. Go ahead
You
and
keep
answer.
interrupting me. You keep interrupting me. So I told you before in the Constitution of the United States, it's still in that every man is free, but in the same time, no one obeys that, and black men are getting killed every single day. Am I right? That's why Black Lives Matter is actually going on in the United States right now, and there is Muslims in the Black Lives Matter. So you're telling me that Muslims are enslaving the black people, but every single one, every single race in the around the world is enslaving the black people. As that's not right in Islam.
That's why you're
Okay,
all going to pay.
who are gonna be?
That's right.
Who?
All of you are going to pay for enslaving God's people. We can read about that in the Bible too, if you want.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
I am trying to like fight the enslaving of the black people. So I am gonna pay. Answer me
Yeah,
that.
everybody,
Yes, you should.
all all Arabs are going into slavery. Muhammad, that's what the Bible says. All Arabs are going into slavery. All so-called white people, all the nations are going to be servants to
So
the Israelites.
every Arab that is currently Arab right now, or every single one that their ancestors were Arab
No,
before.
no.
Hey, can,
We could read it for you out of the Bible.
I
Yeah,
know, I know,
get Revelation.
I know you can read it, but tell me this.
Well, no,
Riddle me,
Here,
this.
I'll do a better. Muhammad, I'll do one better for you.
I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm not a Bible scholar. So reading this to me wouldn't make a difference.
No,
I'm
trust me,
asking you.
it's plain
I'm
to
asking.
understand.
Look. I'm asking
Revelation
you
chapter
this.
13, verse 10. This is very plain to understand. You don't have to be a scholar. This is easy. I guarantee you, Muhammad, if you put your son or your daughter on this chat right now and we read this to them, they'll be able to understand it. It's very plain to understand. Revelation chapter 13, verse 9 to 10, please.
Revelation chapter 13, verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear.
Muhammad, you have an ear on your head. It looked like he ran away, but we'll read it for the rest of the Arabs in the audience. You all of you have ears on your head, on the side of your head. Go ahead.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
But the Bible says, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity." Whether you agree with it or not, it wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4, or a handful of people that led the or spearheaded the sub-Saharan slave trade. It was a nation of people, Muhammad. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 people who are in Egypt today, Libya today, Mauritania today that are enslaving blacks. It's a group of people. It's a nation of people. Even those who turn a blind eye to it, whether it be your next door neighbor who knows what's going on, who's not saying anything, whether it be somebody who sits in parliament, who are putting things into legislation to make it easy for these sheiks and these other Arabic people to remove people's identity from them, that being green cards, visas, passports, so they can't flee. Everybody is guilty. Every single last person is guilty. That's how God judges. God says, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity." Read. Come on.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
Must. So God is not asking. Even some of us who might want to have compassion on a person or a group of persons, God don't give a damn about our feelings. He says they must be killed with the sword. And that's going to happen when Jesus Christ makes his second return. I'm going to mute my mic.
Hey,
Right.
can I?
May I also? I'm sorry. May I also? I want to read an excerpt real quick. Just to clarify. Can y'all hear me? Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right. Let me read this real quick. This is an encyclopedia. This is on Africa. It says social conflicts. Warfare and headhunting have been social conflicts, both now controlled by European governments. The greatest military organizations were those of the Maasai in East Africa and the Zulus in the South. In Dahomey, West Africa, women called Amazons formed part of the standing army. Slavery was due to raids of Arabs and Hamites on Negro communities. So I want to make this point clear that historians understand that Hamites, indigenous Africans, and Arabs were instrumental in the rounding of slaves by attacking Negro communities because Negroes are not Hamites. Now, what I want to also read real quick, if I may, is an excerpt as well regarding what took place after these Arabs and these and Hamites got a hold of the Negroes in the Negro communities that they raided to establish slaves. This is a book called Crania Aegyptica, published in 1844. We were still slaves by a man named Samuel George Morton, M.D., an archaeologist slash craniologist. Okay, and he writes here based upon the skulls he found in Egypt. He says here, Negroes, the same ones that Arabs and Hamites raided communities in Africa and sold them off, Negroes were numerous in Egypt, but their social position in ancient times was the same that it now is, that of servants and slaves. So this man, Samuel Morton, this craniologist, archaeologist, came to the conclusion based upon the archaeological and cranial evidence of the slaves he found buried or bones he found in Egypt that the Negroes they had as slaves during the time his book was published were the same slaves that Pharaoh had in Egypt that Moses said, let go of, who would have happened to be the same people that the Arabs and Hamites raided the communities of in Africa. So these historians, these Arabs know, the Europeans know who Israel is according to the Bible. They've known for many, many years. That book was published in 1844. We were not allowed to read it. Now we are. Read my mic.
You dropped a bomb on them just now. We got oh, go on, Bishop.
Well, no, that was some heavy stuff. Now, I know earlier there was some wannabe Arab Muslims on here. I'm still waiting for one of these wannabe Arab Muslims to try to justify the enslavement of the black man and black woman. They sitting in here. I'm looking at them. Why don't they speak?
Hey, Bishop, you done? You done with that?
Yeah, I just went in my little rant out like that. Go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to for the two Muhammads that came with the two Arabs that tried to justify themselves. Look at Jeremiah 30 and 16, just to go with what Isaac said about Revelation 13 and 10. They think they're going to be spared if they do good. They join Black Lives Matter and protest in the street with us and all of that nonsense, which we are not doing. That's George Soros thing. Read that, Jeremiah 30 and 16.
Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16. Therefore all they that devoured thee shall be devoured.
So the Arabs, they devoured us in the sub-Saharan slave trade, and it's still devouring us right now in those 5 countries that were named in the middle, what's so-called Middle East now, in Northeast Africa. Go ahead.
And all thine adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity.
So it's plain. It didn't say some of them. It doesn't say if you're going to be nice to us. It says every one of them are going to go into slavery. That's what the Bible says. So that's what it is. It is what it is. I mute my mic. Just wanted to get that off.
I got some information right here as well. Hello?
Let's hear it.
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh.
We hear you, E.
Nah, he dropped off for a second.
Okay, can I get Deuteronomy 32:8? Because if you notice, you know how Christians do this universal unity of all mankind, and it's BS because the black man is still lynched, incarcerated at a phenomenal rate, murdered on the street. And then Muslims come with this same baloney about this universal religion for all the world. It's BS. They ignore what the Bible tenets state. Read that.
Deuteronomy 32, verse 8. When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
So the children of Israel got the best inheritance, and God separated the sons of Adam. That's what Christianity rejects. That's what Islam rejects. The separation of the races. That's how God always intended it. The Tower of Babel went against God's command and tried to unite all nations, and the goal was to overthrow God himself. America got the same tenet of ancient Babylon, to all come together to overthrow God of heaven. It's the same evil. And many of our people have that mindset. And if we don't wake up from it, we're going to be lost and doomed to destruction when the Son of God returns. I'll mute my mic.
Real quick, can I get Deuteronomy 28, verse 45?
Deuteronomy 28, verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which I commanded thee.
So as the bishop was saying, our people don't come out of these doctrines. They're going to die here. But our forefathers, even back then, Israel had the same mindset of rebelling against God and following other nations and their idols and their philosophies and their traditions. So it says the curses of God that pursued us based upon that rebellious action. I'm going to show you right here. This is a group of people in Africa called Haratins. Haratins. That's plural. Haratins, plural. Haratani is singular. It says are a group of indigenous dark-skinned Africans inhabiting the parts of North Africa and the Sahel. They are found in Mauritania, Morocco, Western Sahara, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya. These are Muslim countries, by the way. Morocco, or known as a Maghreb, or known ancient times as Black Land. It says Morocco, Western Sahara, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Mauritania. It said they speak Berber languages. I'm gonna get to the point. The Haritin have been and still commonly are socially isolated throughout the Maghreb, living in segregated Haritin-only ghettos. They are commonly perceived as an endogamous, meaning they only marry themselves, or an endogamous group of former slaves or descendants of slaves. They adopted Islam under the Arabs and Berbers and were forcibly, by Arabs and Muslims, recruited into the Moroccan army by Ismail ibn Sharif, Sultan of Morocco, to consolidate his power. Traditionally, many members of the community, have held occupations in agriculture as serfs, herdsmen, and indentured workers. I'm going to go down to a point. 1 second. It says, regardless of whether they were technically free or not, they were treated as socially inferior in the communities they lived in, being denied the right and ability to own land. They historically survived by accepting a patron-client serf-slave relationship either as domestic servant or as sharecropping labor. I'm going to get to the point. They have historically inherited their slave status and family occupation, because it's passed down from grandfather to father to son, have been endogamous and socially segregated. Some communities differentiated two types of slaves, one called abid or slave, or haritin, freed slave. They're free because they have certain privileges. So these people here, these Haritans, are found in these communities today, and known in ghettos, found in Morocco, found in Tunisia, found in Algeria, found in Libya as well, in Western Sahara. These are the curses that also a family linked to them is known as the Nawa people. They were also bought up. They were also enslaved and sold by Arabs as well, or Muslims as well, and brought and remain in these lands in the same servile slave conditions that we are brought over here today. We were brought over here in this side of the world, and their population is 40% of the population. There's 1.5 million of them over there. All right. So these curses follow us wherever we go. Wherever you find our people, you will find these same conditions as God has said, pursuing us. My mic.
Hey, let's hear from Simi real quick. Welcome to the stage, Simi. Where you from?
Thank you. I'm from the U.S., Minneapolis.
Okay, Minneapolis. Yeah, I know you wanted to say, chime in or say something. Let's hear it.
So I am from a background of Islamic religion, and when I got to my 20s, early 20s, about a year ago, I decided to leave the religion, but I didn't come up front with my friends or family members yet. And I'm still in the process of learning, so hearing all of this stuff is very, very interesting. Thank you.
Where's your parents from, if we may ask?
My mom is from East Africa.
Hey, sis, why did you want to leave the religion?
There is just a lot of thing. I haven't really looked into the background of it as much because I'm kind of afraid to find out certain stuff. But I'm at a point in age and time and in the United States where I can practice my own belief. But it's just there's certain when I went back to Africa in 2018, there's just certain stuff that I've seen that kind of made me question.
Yeah, can you give us some examples?
Like
What did you see that made you change your mind from the religion?
like when, for example, like most of the girls go through something called Sunni and Shia, where like genital mutilation, number one.
Yeah, they call it like a circumcision, right? Something like that.
Yes,
Female.
yes. Yeah, with a female with literally no medical background of anything, just comes to your house and, like just performs that. And it was weird, seeing that stuff. And number two is like the way to even like to learn the Quran was like you had to constantly be beat up like by a leash, or you have to be yelled at, or if you get anything. It was just mostly fear. And recently, about a couple weeks ago, my best friend, her name's Khadija, I love her to death. I went over to her house and there was this kid. He was about 6 years old. He comes to me and he literally told me that a grown ass man called Imam literally told this kid that I noticed his eyes were a little bit closer, like his eyes were not as normal, just he was more of closer. So what he told the child was that he literally frightened him so much and told him that you're devil, like I see the devil in you. And this is someone else was telling me this, and he literally runs to me and cries like he's scared. He's like, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. Like the imam says that I'm a devil. Like, how do you tell that to a child? So a lot of things just made me question.
So sis, a lot of Muslims say Islam is a religion of peace, but according to you, who was in the religion, is that not what you saw?
I would say the men are protective, extremely protective, but there's a lot of alarming consequences that people don't really, they just let it happen.
And another thing, Another thing. How did the on that east coast of Africa, where you're from, East Africa, how did the religion get there?
We were somehow, somewhere colonized because we had
By
back home
who?
in East Africa. We had oil. We had a lot of fish resources and camel.
Colonized by who?
We were colonized by Italy.
What
Okay,
what
good.
country are you making reference to? Ethiopia?
Eritrea.
Eritrea. Okay,
Oh,
that's right. Or the
that's right
Ethiopia.
beside it.
Okay,
Right.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Good, sis.
Go ahead.
And East Africa, Somalia too. And so we didn't really believe in those stuff. Like when I look back and at what the sculptures we had and the things we had, and King Solomon and back in Egypt days, we were somehow some way connected. So I don't see how the Arab stuff came in the way.
All right, I'll tell you. I'll tell you how. Matter of fact, give me Deuteronomy 20 and 64. We'll tell you. We'll show you how. Because the Arabs colonizing your land or coming in your land is all Bible prophecy. Watch this.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And
So
there,
the children of Israel are scattered in all lands right now, right? And there, go ahead.
thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known,
So
even wood and stone.
our fathers are serving other gods. We're serving Islam from Iraq. We're serving white Jesus we're serving Christianity with a white Jesus. All right, those are the two biggest religions. It said wood and stone. The two biggest religions: wood representing the Christian cross, and stone representing what for Islam? The Kaaba stone. Right, those are the two biggest religions on the earth. So this is how you guys now got introduced to Islam, is through slavery, through genocide all over Africa. That's no secret. That is how in most of these Muslim countries in Africa, that's how they became Islamic, is by slaughter from the Arabs. Right or wrong, sis? Say again?
Yeah, that's correct.
I'll mute my mic.
You want to jump in?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, we'll go over again. Give me real quick Leviticus 26 verse 1. Leviticus 26 and verse 1.
Leviticus, chapter 26, verse 1.
And I know the reason why a lot of the Italians definitely colonized that part of Africa. They also others are people also known as Tigrayans in Ethiopia, which is not too far from Eritrea. It's like right in the same region. They're 90% Christian over there because Christianity made its way into East Africa as well, which is pretty much the same tenets as Islam. Only difference is that they have a Arab prophet, which would be white Jesus. All right. That
Leviticus 26, verse 1. Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven images, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land to bow down unto it.
right. So you should set up no stone in your land, no standing image of stone in your land to bow down unto it. Going back to that stone again, back in Deuteronomy 28, verse 64, about the idolatry, about bowing down to the stone. This is a rite of passage in Islam as well, bowing down to the stone. So Israel was told not to do this. This is a custom that was around before. When you examine the history of Islam, they had many gods. They had a plethora of many gods the Arabs had prior to Muhammad introducing it, because Muhammad had encountered the Jews during his travels. He was a camel driver, He encountered the Jews because the Jews were an omnipresent people during his travels, and he began to learn different tenets and laws and commandments that we brought to his attention in the Bible. And so he took the tenets and customs of the Bible he learned from the Jews, and he began to push his own ideology. And he basically told his brothers, his Arab brothers, why are we worshiping all these different gods? So he ended up having worship. Yep. He ended up having them worship with one God rather than 360 gods of the year. He said worship just one. So he introduced the monotheism to his own people, based upon the ideology of the Jews who worship only one God. That's what Islam came about. So Islam is basically a Arabic version of Judaism. That's all it is, with a mixture of idolatry. That's what it is. It's not a lie. It's just facts. Many Arab writers have this. This is known. So I'll leave it at that.
I would like to say, didn't Muhammad say he got Islam from Bilal, which was supposed to be like a black man?
You mean an
No,
angel?
Islam was
Yeah,
spread
I'm
by
not sure.
Islam was spread by a lot of black people. A lot of our people, the Jews, a lot of them helped him promote that
No, I'm talking about
ideology.
Muhammad specifically. He said I'm not sure specifically what he said, but he said he got it from Bilal, or Bilal taught him.
What Muhammad are you making reference to?
The Prophet Muhammad. In the
Okay.
Quran.
He said he got it from the angel Gabriel, which is not true at all, because he's not an Israelite. He's a descendant of Ishmael. All of the prophets were Israelites. There's no prophets that are of another nation when you read the Bible. And then even the Apostle Paul warned us about that. I believe in Corinthians 11, Ibuka. Unless you want to say something, Benjamin, you got your mic unmuted.
I was going to back you up with Amos 2:11 about there's no other prophets on this planet except the children of Israel.
Yeah, get that, and then get the Apostle Paul as well in Corinthians 11.
Because a lot of the Muslims say Prophet Muhammad. But there's no prophecy in the Quran. He didn't prophesy nothing. So how he got that title is just by hearsay. There's no prophecy in the Quran, period. So Muhammad is not a prophet. And now the Bible is going to prove it. Go ahead.
The book of Amos, chapter 2, verse 11. And I raised up of your sons for prophets, and of your young men for Nazarites. Is it not even thus, O ye children of Israel, saith the Lord?
See that? So he's talking to the children of Israel. He's not talking to the children of Ishmael. He's talking to the Israelites. So this is the book that the Muslims say they believe in, which is the Bible. They say they believe in the Bible as well as the Quran. Well, guess what? The Bible just told you that there's no other prophets but the children of Israel. So Muhammad, by default, can't be a prophet according to the Bible.
That's 100. I can jack that, you heard. Because first of all, I want to say peace to everybody. Me and Roosevelt was in the room earlier, having to. I come from the Morris science background, just to let everybody know. But we was in the room earlier with what you would call the Orthodox Muslims, and they was trying to say how Elijah Muhammad can't be the messenger because of all this stuff in the Quran and all this stuff. But I do want to ask everybody, in the Quran, it does say the children of Israel all through the Quran. Children of Israel, children of Israel.
Fact.
So yeah, there's no you want to say there's no correlation to that, like, or like can somebody like talk to me about that or something? Cause I do. That's a serious question I have.
The reason it says it mentions the children of Israel in the Quran, because you had Muhammad reciting what he was taught by the Israelites. So that's why.
Correct.
So we wouldn't say the Quran would be for us too?
No, absolutely not. The Bible's for us. That's
right.
our. So the Quran after. I'll give you.
Right. I'm not debating that, but I'm saying
I know that.
When I'm reading it and seeing the children of Israel all through it, I'm thinking about us. I'm thinking
because
about all of us in this room. So
yeah, no, I feel you. I'm just giving you a little bit more. I just wanted to elaborate on it. I'm not saying you're trying to challenge it or nothing.
mhm.
It's remember the Quran came many years after, so it's making reference to a book that came before that was recited by a man who met Jews on many of his travels, like E explained earlier. That's like somebody saying, well, is the Book of Mormon for us? Because you have the Book of Mormon that talks about Native Americans being the Israelites, which they are the descendants of Israel. But the Book of Mormon is not for us either. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a
Yeah.
fact. Okay, so with that being said, I mean, I will leave with this. Like, not leave, but this is my last statement. I like to say, like I said, I come from the Moorish Science Temple or Moorish Science background, whatever you might want to call it. And what Drew Ali brought to us with that, Islam is an old religion. It's an old time religion. So what Muhammad brought about was around that date, 600 AD, the boom boom. But there was Islam way before that. Like Islam is way older than that. So with that being said, I can't really jack that the Arab made it up or nothing like that.
Yeah, it is. It was older than that, and they had about 300 and something gods. So what Elijah did, what Muhammad did, was he took away all of those gods and said, well, we need to be monotheistic, like the Hebrews, like the Jews, and serve one God. So they kept their star crescent or whatever. They kept their moon god. So they got rid of all the other gods: the frog god, the bear god, the tree god, the sand god, the wave god, and they just
I got what's going on. That's a fact. So I was in a room. I was in the Nation of Islam room, and they were saying I haven't really dove that deep into the Quran, but they were saying that in the Quran it states that these Arabs are the second wave of Arabs, and the first ones was swarthier and darker. So
yeah, they're correct. They will
right.
call
So this right. So this is what I'm saying. How could it be? So
well,
how is it not our situation?
Not all black people are the same. Noah had 3 sons. Do you know their names?
No, I don't. But Islam is not the black man religion in the name of the room. So that
okay. Well,
that's where the confusion is coming from.
I'll explain it. When we talk about black man, we're talking about the black man in America, because this is where we're based. We do know Clubhouse is somewhat international, but we're talking about the black man in America. Those scattered in the diaspora. That's what we're making reference to. Now, as far as the color black, Noah had 3 sons, which made up a whole bunch of different nations, and all of them were black. Ishmael, who was the original black Arab, he had many sons. One of them in particular named Kedar, and the word Kedar means black. So when they said these are the second waves of Arabs, correct, those dark-skinned black Arabs later intermingled with the Ottoman Turks, and Greeks, thus producing what you see today in Egypt,
all over the Middle East,
Arabia, in Iran,
all over.
Iraq, all over. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, but the seed of Ishmael is still here today, and they're going to be judged when Christ returns.
Mm-hmm. All right, 100.
But here, that's how you say it?
Yes, sir, it is. How's it going?
How's it going, Bahir? Where you from?
I'm from the United States. My background is Nigerian, though.
Okay, all right. So, you are you believe in Islam?
I don't want to argue from a religious standpoint. I want to. I guess I'll start with the question. Islam is not the black man's religion. Could you give some background on that? I think I understand what it means, but
the background is you said you're from Nigeria, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as a Nigerian, you believe in Islam?
I mean, again, I don't want to talk about my own religious beliefs.
But here, are you an Igbo or
yes,
Yoruba?
I'm Yoruba.
Yoruba. Okay.
Yes.
The Yoruba tribe, a majority of you guys were slaves under the Arabs. That's where you adopted that religion. Are you familiar
Yoruba? Nah, Yoruba's like 50-50.
I'm not talking about the nation. I'm not talking about the name Yoruba. I'm talking about the religion that you guys follow.
Oh, like Ifa?
Uh, do you follow Islam?
Yoruba's like,
Yoruba.
I mean,
Most
so
of
like I
them,
said, like,
most of them follow Islam, right? Most Yoruban.
no, like no, like so. I mean, you have like some of them that do follow like the traditional, I guess indigenous religion. But I mean, you do have like a good amount. It's about half and half, Christianity and Islam, like not taking
Yeah.
into account the
Okay.
indigenous.
So both of those religions was forced on the Yoruba people by the oppressors. Whether it's European with Christianity and whether it be Islam with the Arabs. You have to go and study the sub-Saharan slave trade so you can see what we're talking about. That's why
I do.
That's why we titled is Islam the religion of the black man? Because prior to you going into slavery under Ahmed, what were you doing on the continent of Africa? What were you worshiping? What were you doing? Who are you? Who were you?
What slavery are you referring to? I guess I'll ask.
Sub-Saharan slave trade.
You want to
when the Arabs came and took the people of Yoruba into slavery.
Hey, Isaac.
So you're saying that people came from like the Arabian Peninsula to come to like the Yoruba tribe to take them into slavery?
Yeah, they came into Nigeria. They came into many different countries in Africa and enslaved the people, brought them over to more of the East and enslaved them. And then later on, those people returned back to their lands and they came back with the religion of their colonizers.
Are you sure you're not referring to like Northern Africa?
No, Northern Africa as well, but they migrated down south as well too. Nobody stays in one place. You have nomads, just like you have your people. You have your people today in Libya. You have Yoruba people and Igbo people who are looking for work, going to Libya and being enslaved by the Libyans. Nobody stays in one place.
Right.
We always have
I think
of moving around.
So I guess my confusion is sort of coming about. I don't think anybody preaches that I guess Islam would be the black man's religion, right? I don't think anybody truly believes that like black people are the ones that like founded like Islam. Or I'm not sure if I'm understanding that.
You do by your own example.
I believe that the black man founded Islam, or
no. Your own example shows what you believe, right?
I'm not understanding.
Meaning whatever religion you subscribe to shows what you believe. So, for example,
I get you.
I know you said you didn't want to answer the question, but by you not answering the question, you're actually giving the answer. More than likely, you probably follow Islam as well.
I mean, okay.
And you being a black man from the continent of Africa, from the country of Nigeria, from the tribe of Yoruba, by you following Islam, you're saying that that's a religion for you. You're being an example to other black people. We're saying that's not what God called you. God called you an Israelite, and God gave you laws, statutes, and commandments to follow. God never said for us as the children of Israel who the Yoruba tribe are, the children of Israel. God never told us to follow Islam. That's where we're in error, and we got to return back to God's laws, statutes, and commandments.
Okay, I get. Okay, so that's another thing. What I guess would make like somebody like of the Yoruba tribe a children of Israel, I guess, a child of Israel, I guess.
Because they fit the curses. When you read Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter.
What are the curses ascribed to? I guess the Yoruba people.
You want to book it to get Babylon and Timbuktu?
Yeah, you could get Babylon and Timbuktu, and you could also get Deuteronomy. I don't know if Benjamin or ZB Real want to go over that. Okay, I guess not.
Isaac, I'm about to shut it down.
It's long.
Hey Z, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
See, you wanna go over that, or you want me
Can you hear
to?
me?
We got Hananiah as well.
Hananiah.
Can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
sir. What you say?
Read Babylon and Timbuktu first.
This is the Book of Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. Page 45. When Muhammad was born, many Arabs were still worshiping the sun, stars, spirits, and idols.
No,
The
get me
Arabs,
the page with when it says over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. I forgot what page it's on. I don't have the book in front of me.
I think it's page 84. Can you hear me now? Page 84.
You're real low, Z.
Page 84. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian, his son, Titus, put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The
So
slave markets.
So we flooded deeper into the deeper interiors of Africa, but here, Israel is already on the continent of Africa, right next to northeast Egypt, right? So we fled deeper into Africa, later setting up kingdoms in Mali, Songhai, Ashanti, the Igbo and Yoruba of Nigeria. We settled in the Niger. We settled in the Congo. Many of
Only
us many of us even went more eastward. This was in 70 AD, what Christ prophesied in the book of Luke, the 21st chapter. So when we started to settle in Africa, we took our laws, we had our constitution. Let's continue to read that in Babylon.
Page 90. The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes.
Now, the African tribes, but here you might ask yourself, who is that? Those were the ancient Hamitic tribes. Like when you hear about the Canaanites and the Pharisaites and the Jebusites, those black people came from Ham. They weren't Shem, they came from Ham. We're Shem. Those people came from Ham. Those were ancient Hamitic tribes that were already on the continent. So we migrated amongst them. And God says we had an advantage over them. Not only our laws, but other things as well. Read.
They carried their culture, history, laws, and written records with them. This assured them a constant precedence for a development of a higher social organization.
So
Because of this,
you see that word says a higher social organization. Wherever we went to at that time, guess what? We were higher people. Remember in Deuteronomy 7 verse 6, God says the Israelites are above all people, not only because of first and foremost because of God's laws, but for other things as well. All the ways of knowledge was given unto Jacob. Read.
because of the stability of the black Jewish culture, the Jews were not absorbed into the autochthonous population. In fact, the Jews absorbed some of the native tribes. The Jews
So
made
at
use of.
first, that's what happened. We weren't absorbed into the other tribes, but through the process of time, what did we started to do? We started to develop an affinity of the other nations. So we took them amongst us. We married their daughters. We married their sons when God told us not to do that. And through the process of time, I don't know if you were on the channel earlier when E brought out that book about how the Arabs and the Hamites took us and sold, and they raided Negro towns, and then the Hamites sold us to the Arabs as slaves. So the ancient tribal Africans on the continent, they knew exactly who they were selling. That's why the brothers and sisters of Yoruba, many of them were taken to Puerto Rico. Many of them were taken to Cuba, okay, which is the tribe of Ephraim, and then you have the tribe of Manasseh. Okay, so the Yoruban people were scattered through the four corners, and that was the transatlantic. But before that, you had the sub-Saharan, When the Arabs came in, they took the Igbos, the Yoruba, and some of the Fulani as well, and then they took them as slaves and enforced Islam upon them. Now you could read about that. Give me Deuteronomy 28. Let's just touch the key points. Just jump to verse 68 and then get me 64.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 68.
So this
And the
is what
Lord,
God told the Israelites, Bahir. God told us, look, if we break the commandments of God, this is Moses talking to us after he got the commandments from God. He says, look, if you break God's laws, this is what's going to happen to you. This is just one of the many curses. Go ahead.
and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again
Mm-hmm.
with ships, by the way whereof I speak unto thee.
So
Thou
how
shalt.
did the Yoruba tribe get over there to Cuba and the island of some were scattered on the island of Hispaniola, and a bulk of them was carried to Puerto Rico? How did they get over there? They didn't swim. They didn't take a car. God says they would go on ships. What kind of ships? Slave ships. Read.
By the way whereof I speak unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
What you're not going to see no more again, but here is your country, the nation, the country of Israel, as a nation of people. You ain't going to see your heritage again. We left. God took that all away from us for a great dispensation of time. Go ahead.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
Were we
For
sold?
bond,
Were we sold? Let's take it back to the sub-Saharan, which happened before the transatlantic. We were sold, but here we were sold to Arab slave masters in Yemen. We were sold to Arab slave masters in Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, India, as far as India, Iraq, Iran. They sold us on auction blocks. Now jump up to the transatlantic slave trade. The Yoruba brothers and sisters were sold over there in Puerto Rico. They were sold in Cuba. They were sold in Haiti. They were sold wherever they were brought to on cargo slave ships. Go ahead.
and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no
So
man shall buy you.
you were sold as slaves, as bondmen, slave man, and slave woman, and no man shall buy you. The word buy means to redeem, to save. Because if you're sold, obviously that means you're bought, right? Somebody had to buy you. So when it says no man shall buy you, it's talking about somebody saving you. Nobody can save us from this condition but Jesus the Christ. That's what the Bible is making reference to. Now, when we were sold, what happened to us after we stepped off the auctioning blocks? But here, what happened next? Give me Deuteronomy 28 verse give me verse 30. Give me verse 16. Give me verse 16.
32.
Yeah, verse 16. Deuteronomy 28:16.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 16. Cursed
Mm-hmm.
shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
After we got down off of those auctioning blocks and we were taken to whatever plantation we had to go to, guess what? We were cursed in the field. How were we cursed in the field? But here, we had to pick sugar, cotton, tobacco, plantains, whatever the slave master wanted us to do in the field, we had to do. Whatever we had to do, whatever he wanted us to do in the city, we had to do. He broke us. They broke us down. Get me verse 64.
Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other.
We read that in
And
verse
there,
68 right here by slave ships. Go ahead.
and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even
Now,
wood and stone.
why would we serve other gods? Why would we serve other gods? But here, I want to know if you're paying attention. Make sure I'm not just speaking to deaf ears. Why would we serve other gods? Notice what God says. He's going to scatter us. How did God scatter us? Via slave ships. We were sold on auction blocks. Reread that for you. We served in the fields. I'm pretty sure you know the history of slavery. So now he's saying we're going to serve other gods. What would make us serve other gods?
So I don't know if you're saying maybe being forced to do so.
Very good. We were forced to do so. So whatever the Arab slave master told you, if he told you you have to follow Islam and read the Quran and say Allah Akbar 10 times a day, guess what? You had no choice, because he would kill you. He would whip you. He would kill you. And they still do that to our brothers and sisters this very day. Now, over here in America, in Europe, in the Caribbean islands and so forth, and even different parts of Africa, what happened to us? Christianity came. So when they told us to bow down to the white image of Jesus Christ, we had no choice. But here, we were killed. We were whipped. They took our children and sold your daughter to another slave master somewhere else. They separated the family. They put the fear of themselves in us, to where we had to worship what wood and cross. We had to worship their idols. We had to worship their pagan gods. We had no choice. Read that again for him, Abuka.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Look at that. Now, why is the Most High using wood? And look at that, wood and stone, right? Now, let's take wood. When you hear the word wood, what comes to mind when it comes to religion? You think of the cross, the Christian cross. When you hear stone, what comes to mind? What's the first thing that pops up in your mind? The Kaaba stone. So here in America, you have two of the world's largest religions, Christianity and Islam, that was forced on the children of Israel. Now you got to ask yourself, okay, what happened to our other brothers and sisters on the continent that stayed back, who were later colonized by the Europeans? And when you bring it up to today, you have the Chinese people, and you also have the Arabs as well, who are still colonizing our brothers and sisters on the continent. Read Deuteronomy 28, the 33rd verse.
Deuteronomy 28. Verse 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
So you got to ask yourself, it says the fruit of thy land, but here, what is that talking about? What is that making reference? Your first initial thought, you might be saying plantains, oranges, cassava, and so forth. Mango.
I'm thinking children, no?
Well, the fruit of thy land is talking about, is also going into those crops that I mentioned. But first and foremost, it's talking about your oil, your zinc, your diamonds, your gold, your bauxite. Africa is one of the richest continents. You had a president, I believe it was former President Sarkozy, if I'm not mistaken, of France, who said, that France and many of the European countries would be a third world country if it was not for Africa. What does he mean by that? Because they colonized the hell out of Africa. Just the other day, I believe it was Namibia. Germany Germany just approved a $1.1 billion of reparations for Namibia. Do you think that's enough? Absolutely not. And I guarantee you that money's not going to go to the people. That money's not going to go to the descendants of the slaves that the Germans had. That money's going to go to the wicked government, those in politics over there in Namibia. So God says, you shall be only crushed and oppressed always. You know, they even put that in your movies. About a little over a decade ago, there was a movie called Blood Diamonds. It was talking about the diamonds that come out of Sierra Leone. Africa is one of the richest continents, the richest continent, but they're so poor. So poor. What is it, 55 countries in Africa?
54, yeah.
All right, well, I say 55 because Israel's a part of Africa. Don't let the white man brainwash you. So from now on, it's 55 countries, not 54. So rich. But why are you at the bottom? Because of the prophecies of God. This so-called white man has been ruling. He's been ruling over you. He's been colonizing you. All the nations, not just him, all the nations that I mentioned earlier, they all reap the benefits of Africa. Why? Because the curses of God are upon the Israelites who are scattered in Africa. All right? Said, we got to come back to the Bible, brother. We got to come back to the Bible. When you get a chance, Bahir, do your research, bro. Do more research. Don't just follow a religion because your mother or your father raised you in it.
I agree. I've done my own research, right? Which is why I wanted to hear you out, right? So I'm somebody who likes to be very historically accurate, right? So just knowing, I guess my ethnic background, right? Just being Yoruba, um, I can see that there was no sub-Saharan slave trade, right? I don't know if you're referring to the trans-Saharan slave trade, um, but that wouldn't have affected the Yoruba Empire, right? So the trans-Saharan slave trade would have been, yes, you have some parts maybe like East Africa, South Africa, but mainly the North, right? And I guess some parts of West Africa, right? That did not affect the Yoruba Empire, right?
So
So I guess
how did the Yoruba get on cargo slave ships and end up in Cuba and Puerto Rico?
that's the transatlantic slave trade, right?
Yeah, now I'm talking about the trans, but I'll touch on the sub in a minute. The transatlantic, how did they get there? If you're saying it didn't touch that empire,
No, I'm saying the
Even
trans-Saharan slave
before,
trade didn't touch
even
the
even
Yoruba
before
Empire.
that, remember a lot of those slaves had Muslims and Muslim names.
100%, yes. In the transatlantic slave trade, 100%.
No. Before the transatlantic, but when they found the slaves, before they put them on the ships in West Africa, many of the slaves had Arab or Muslim names.
Are you saying before they put them on the like ships for the transatlantic slave trade?
Correct.
Yes, 100%, yes.
so he's saying that for a reason. Why was that? How did that happen?
So before that, right, you would have had the influence of Islam, right, in West Africa, right? At that point in time, there wasn't the influence of Christianity yet, right? But what you're gonna have, right, is, like you said, people are nomadic, right? So you're correct with that, right? Especially, I believe the Hausa and Fulani groups are especially nomadic, right? But you're gonna have merchants coming from different countries, right? So some might leave somewhere like, well, I don't want to say like Nigeria, right? Because Nigeria wasn't a concept at that point in time, right? But that area, right? Going to different places, right? So they might end up converting from where they came from, and they might bring back, right? Because like I said, they're nomadic, right? They might bring back their religion, and other people take a liking to their religion, right? And you might have had like influential people. You might have had like King Mansa Musa, right? Who was Muslim, right? Obviously, he's a king. He's very influential. His people might become Muslim. So it's things like that. So that's why at the point in time of like the transatlantic slave trade, right? You'll see slaves, right, getting onto those ships with Muslim names, right? Because they were Muslim, right? So that's where that influence would have come from.
Okay, but are you saying it's correct for them to be Muslim? Because
What do you
remember,
mean?
these are the children.
I mean,
These are
that's their belief. I'm not going to say it's correct or not.
yeah, but these are the children of Israel we're talking about. God didn't tell them to be Muslim.
I mean, again, I'm trying to look at it from a because obviously, right, you're using the Bible, right? The Bible is a heavily biased source, right? I'm trying to look at I'm trying to be as objective as possible here, right? So yes, I mean, I understand why you're saying they will be the children of Israel by your standards, right? But again, I'm trying to look at it objectively, right? So I can't say
Not by his standards.
You mean by God? What
Many
God
of the
said?
history books say the same thing.
say what?
That the Yoruba are Israelites.
What
Those
history
of the
book says that?
those of the transatlantic slave trade. Those are the sub-Saharan slave trade, whose communities were raided on, says that they are Israelites. There's many books to prove.
Again, I'm not sure of the sub-Saharan slave trade that you're referring. Like to
You
my knowledge, nothing like that has
you
ever
just
existed.
don't know. That's it.
I mean, again, I study this history, and this is also my history, right?
We know you study history, but you didn't study it to the fullest, and there's still major gaps in your understanding.
I mean, again, I think y'all are referring to the trans-Saharan slave trade rather than.
You think.
I mean, because there's no such
We're
thing as a
talking
sub-Saharan
about
slave trade.
before the trans as well.
No, I'm not saying the transatlantic. I'm saying the trans-Saharan slave trade, right? Not the transatlantic slave trade. And y'all keep mentioning the sub-Saharan slave trade, right? That's what I'm saying.
Trans and sub are interchangeable.
No, sub-Saharan means below the Sahara, right?
We know that it
Trans-Saharan means
means
throughout.
below, but the trade spanned above and below the Saharan.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, like I said, you have like small segments in maybe like East Africa, Southern Africa, but again, majority it was Northern Africa, and you had some parts of West Africa, right? But like I said, the Yoruba Empire was not touched by that.
And we hear what you're saying, but that's
Of
not
course.
historically accurate at all. So
I'm telling you, like, it is historically accurate.
You're not showing any proof.
I mean, okay, let me pull up some sources.
Take your time. We'll let Bishop Nathaniel.
No problem.
I just came back, Carlisle, so I don't know what's going on, so I'm just listening.
Oh, he's trying to prove that the Yorubas were unaffected by the spread and forced indoctrination of Islam before the
No. I'm not saying we're unaffected by the spread, right? I'm trying to say that in the trans-Saharan slave trade, that was where they were not affected by the trans-Saharan slave trade, right? So a lot of the implementation of like Islam in like, I guess, the Yoruba Empire, right, would have been through like merchants, traders, things like, because the Yorubas were very heavily like trading people, right? So that's where you get the intermixing with other groups of people, and that's where you could have seen the influence of like Islam come into play there.
What happened?
I think he cut off.
No, I'm still no. That was the end of my statement.
All right, I'm confused. So he's saying that the Yoruba were affected by the spread of Islam, or they were not
Correct.
affected.
I'm saying, of course, right? You have like I said, almost 50% of like Yoruba people will be probably like 40%, right? Okay, right. But you have quite a significant portion of Yoruba people are Muslim today, right? Also Christian, right? But what I'm trying to say is that it wasn't due to like Arab slave trade. Like it wasn't the trans-Saharan slave trade that caused that, shift to Islam is what I'm trying to say. But of course we were affected, right? Like of course there are Muslim people that are Yoruba today, right?
All right, that seems contradictory to me, but okay, so I'm assuming that you're referring to the influence before the sub-Saharan slave trade from the time of Mohammedans. Is that what you're making reference to?
I mean, there would have been influence there too, but I'm not even talking about. What I'm trying to say is there was no sub-Saharan slave trade, right? There was a trans-Saharan slave trade, right? But that did not affect the Yoruba Empire.
Okay, I'm now confused again. You said there was no sub-Saharan slave trade with the Arabs?
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you're referring to the trans-Saharan slave trade, right? That's a different thing, right? But what I'm trying to say is like trans-Sahara and sub-Sahara would be two different things. And the sub-Saharan slave trade isn't a thing. The trans-Saharan, yes. But what I'm trying to say is that the Yoruba Empire was not affected by the trans-Saharan slave trade.
All right, so this is semantics. You're going into semantics. When the Arabs
no
went throughout, so we all understand. You're saying that when the Arabs went throughout North Africa and various other parts of Africa, enslaving and indoctrinating, you're saying the Yorubas were not affected, or they were?
Exactly. The Yorubas were not affected by that. Exactly.
So they became Muslims through osmosis.
No, so I don't know if you were here when I said it, but earlier on, right, I was talking about how the Yoruba people traded and did business with other lands, right? So that's where you would have seen the influence of Islam with the Yoruba people, right? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, we're saying it's pretty much similar things. Semantics is causing confusion.
No. What I'm trying to say is that it was that was not imposed upon the people, right? That was a choice by the people, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, obviously, the bottom line is like, Islam is a gutter religion. That's the bottom line.
I mean, you're entitled to that opinion, sure, right? But I want us to be accurate about the facts here.
And when I say gutter religion, I mean gutter religion because God calls it a gutter religion. Isaiah 41:21, by the way, in reference to that, and also as the Arabs enslave our people in various Muslim countries to this day. And I don't see Yoruba people standing for or against it. They're like
standing for against
the enslavement of Black people in Yemen, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia. That's what we're making reference to. The enslavement of Black people to this very day verifies that Islam is not the religion of the Black man or Black woman.
I mean, so again, I don't know if you were here earlier when I came in, but again, I don't think anybody is arguing that Islam is the black people's religion, right? I don't think anybody is arguing that, right? What I'm trying to say is that, you know, the methods in which Islam would have entered, like the Yoruba
But here,
Empire, for example.
by your example, you argue it first and foremost. Second, you keep contradicting your statements by playing.
I'm not contradicting anything.
All right.
Sounds contradictory to me, and I just got back in.
I mean, I understand that it might sound, but I really want you to hear what I'm saying, right?
Nah,
what I'm trying to say.
But here, you got to listen to yourself. One day, just record yourself, and play it back so that you can learn what you're doing.
Trust me. No amount of scrutiny that you are giving me now is nothing. Is anything compared to what I give myself, right? In comparison to, especially, you know, before entering rooms.
Yeah, we'll go with Papa. Or
Yeah, hi everybody. So how does this go? Do I just introduce myself?
Yeah, introduce yourself, where you're from, and you know, just jump into it.
Yes, my name is Papa, as you can see, and I'm originally from Senegal. I'm currently residing in the United States as a student, and I just wanted to chime in because I was in the audience. It's a pretty interesting talk that you're having here, and I just heard, like, you know, some misinformation that I wanted to clarify, because sometimes I feel like people get the misconception of Arabs and Islam. Those two things are very different. Like, a person can be Arab and not be Muslim. A Muslim might not necessarily be Arab. So when we talk about enslavement of black people, of course, Arab people have long done the enslavement of black people up till the birth of Islam. It was actually Islam that kind of got rid of it in the Arab nation, because they had slaves. And when they found out that Muhammad came with these statements that the master and the slave were the same under the eyes of God, that's what brought them to be chased down from Mecca and took them all the way to Medina, where they lived for throughout the rest of the days of Islam. So I just want to point out that even to this day, when you say that there is slavery in Libya and many other Arab nations, it's not because they do it because Islam told them to do so. It's just the Arab people who live there. That's their nature, to enslave people. And everybody knows that that is wrong. Everybody advocates for it. But that does not mean that Muslims enslave black people. It's Arab people who do that. I think it's necessary to do the distinction. Like, Arabs are a whole ethnicity, if you want to call it that. And then Muslim is just totally different. It's just the religion that happened to be born in the Arab nation, but has nothing to do with the Arab people. It's a religion that is free for anybody to adhere to, just like Christianity or any other religion. So I don't think religion is based off of an ethnicity or off of a race, but it's just a religion that anybody could join if they are convinced enough that this is their religion that they want to adhere to.
Okay, I want to point out the inconsistency and contradiction of what you said. You said, although Islam started with the Arabs, it is not an Arab religion. And that's a contradiction to me. It started with the Arabs, but it's not an Arab religion. Even when you look in Zondervan's Bible Dictionary under Ishmaelite, it tells you that the Ishmaelites are all those that practice the religion of Muhammad, which is Islam. So although you have, I don't know if you're a Muslim yourself and you're trying to justify and make excuses, can we read Sirach 32:17? Ecclesiastes 32:17, please. Ibuka, come on, wake up.
Yes, sir. The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 32, verse 17. A sinful man will not be reproved, but findeth an excuse according to his will.
Right. And this is what I noticed with Muslims and Christians. Just as black Christians try to justify or ignore the atrocities put upon black people today, I see Muslims do the same thing when it comes to that religion that they're in. They make excuses, they try to justify, they run around the bush. That's what we've been seeing all night. I'll mute my mic.
Can I respond to that?
Hold up, let Isaac jump in.
All right.
He could go ahead. I want to hear his response first.
Okay, so it sounds like he didn't hear me, that I'm not justifying any acts that people are doing. I just want to make the distinction of Muslims and Islam. So he said that people from Ishmael are often called the Muslims. That's because Ishmael is one of the forefathers of Arab people. So like if all Arabs converted to Islam, that makes sense that you say that people from Ishmael became Muslim because they are the Arab people. If you follow their lineage all the way to Abraham, that's where Arab people came from. And we're not trying to justify anything. I heard somebody said that they left Islam, which anybody is free to do so. And the explanation they gave was said that we Muslims in East Africa do something called Sunni and Shia, and that's the excision of female genitals, which is absolutely wrong. Because Sunni and Shia actually means two groups that are within Islam, within the Muslim community. Sunni was the ones who followed the first caliphate of the Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakr, and Shia are the people who follow Ali, who was the cousin of the Prophet Muhammad. So those two, she called the excision of female genitals Sunni and Shia, which is completely wrong. And the excision of genitals is not the practice that has been introduced by Islam. It is cultural. It is cultural in many, many nations.
That means
it has
that
nothing to do with Islam.
justified? Does this mean now that you're justified?
I'm not justifying. Okay, go ahead, please.
No, I'm just saying you're bringing out where that young lady was in error, if she was in error, you know. But you still haven't addressed the topic. Islam, is it the black man's religion? Now, you, by your example in following it, you're making it clear that it is the black man's religion according to your belief and your actions and your example that you're following. Now, I'm gonna let you jump in real quick.
Well, you know what doesn't make sense to me is that the trans-Saharan or sub-Saharan, however you want to title it, based on direction or where the ships came from, where they disembarked and where they landed, it's still the Muslim slave trade, because the Arab men that were on those boats and who enslaved us followed a religion called Islam. And today in Libya, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and different parts of the East, our people are being enslaved by Arab men who follow a religion called Islam. So all fingers, not one, not two, but all 10 fingers point to Islam. So we have brothers who are following that religion, who were whose ancestors, that religion was beat into their backs via sub-Saharan, via trans-Saharan, whatever you fancy name you want to title it. That's not what God gave you. That's the point that we're getting into. God called us Israelites. The brother on here, he said he was from it wasn't Cape Verde. It was something else. There was another name you said. The brother that was just speaking. Where did you say you were from?
I'm from Senegal.
Senegal. A majority of our brothers there, especially those of the Bantu, majority of our brothers there were taken into slavery, were taken into captivity.
85%.
Senegal is about 2% Bantu.
A lot of the slave ships, but I'm pretty sure they intermingled with the other tribes. It's not just Bantu. God says we make up the sand of the sea. Those slave ships left Senegal and came onto this side. Those slave ships left Senegal and went more eastward. God scattered us everywhere. So what we're saying is we have black people. We'll have black people who are following that religion, who is holding on to Islam wholeheartedly. And that is not what God gave us. That's for Ishmael. That's for the Arab man. That's what we're saying.
Okay, so just to respond to that, you're saying that some black people was put on a boat and taken eastward.
Many,
I
not
believe that is a misinformation, because that trans-Saharan slave trade or sub-Saharan slave trade couldn't have happened through the sea. It was land. They had
Many of
camels and stuff and caught
many of it,
prisoners from wars and made them
ma-
slaves.
many
And
of it was meant you had boats, and you also did have land. You're correct on that. I'm not saying you're wrong.
right,
You are correct.
right. But like,
Many
where
of it
did the
was land
boats
and boat.
where did the boats sail? Through the Saharan desert?
No, the boats didn't sail through the Saharan desert. You had your foremother, your great great grandmother was
Mm-hmm.
taken, dragged, and put on a damn donkey or
Mm-hmm.
carriage
Mm-hmm.
or chariot and brought
Mm-hmm.
over there eastward to serve the Arab man. And
Right.
now here you are in Senegal worshiping the religion of the Arabs. That's what you're doing.
So
You have been a perfect slave for the
Mm-hmm.
Arabs, and now
Mm-hmm.
you're reverencing his religion. That's
Right.
it. Just all you got to do just admit, look, I'm Islam, and this is what I love. This is what I'm gonna die in, and that's it. I
But
mean,
let
all
me
you got
just
to do is admit
point
it.
something out, because
Yeah,
somebody said
I'm
Muhammad
gonna read
is
the
not a
excerpt.
prophet.
Wait,
Just 1 second, please. Just 30 seconds. 30
No,
seconds and I'm done.
hold on. Go
Hold
ahead, Carl.
30 seconds and
I'm
I'm
gonna
done.
read
I
an
go ahead.
excerpt. I'm gonna read an excerpt real quick, okay?
Oh, okay,
And then
go
I
ahead.
want you to say what you're going to say about Muhammad being a prophet, please.
Yeah, like
After.
30 seconds and I'll be done for sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead. All in respect, of course. So can I go ahead or?
Go.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So I heard somebody said that Muhammad was not a prophet because there's no prophecy in the Quran. So that's where the misunderstanding comes from. The Quran is not Muhammad's word. This is God's word. So we cannot judge Muhammad, his prophecy of the Quran. He just transmitted what was transmitted to him. Now, his prophecies come in the Hadith, what he was telling to the scholars, the Muslim scholars of those times, and they recorded it. And these words are very separate from the Quran. You can see all those prophecies in the Hadith. But the Quran is God's words exactly. And I wonder if you all read the Quran, because like about 80% of the people that that God was talking to in the Quran are the Israelite people. So if I'm not sure if you read it, but from what I'm hearing right now, I don't think many of you read it. And I think that if you want to contradict a religion, it is maybe good to do some research and look what they're into. Because if you don't know what they're talking about, you won't be able to contradict them.
Hey, Papa, you've been saying incorrect stuff the entire time, and you
Go
have
ahead. Tell me what's incorrect in what I said.
wait. You have the nerve to assume that we haven't checked these things out.
I
I'm
didn't assume. I said I do not believe. It wasn't a fact. It's just my
I'm gonna
belief.
read an excerpt really quick, and this is on history.com. Right now, this is widely known information. Now it says enslaved people brought to the United States represented about 3.6% of the total number of Africans transported to the New World, or around 388,000 people, considerably less than the number of transported to the colonies in the Caribbean, included more than 1.2 million to Jamaica alone, or to Brazil, 4.8 million. Of those Africans who arrived in the United States, nearly half came from two regions: Senegambia, the area comprising the Senegal and Gambia rivers, and the land between them, or today's Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Mali, and West Central Africa, including what is now Angola, Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Gabon. The Gambia River, running from the Atlantic into Africa, was a key waterway for the slave trade at its height. About 1 out of every 6 West African enslaved people came from this area.
Right. I don't see what has to do with Islam, but yeah, that is correct. All the information you said is correct, but that
You
has
said
nothing to do with
correct
Islam.
because you saying it's correct, but that's not what you were saying before. You said otherwise.
No, so we're talking about Islam here. So we're not talking about the transatlantic slave
I'm
trade.
just making
That has nothing to do with Islam.
I'm making a point that everything is saying is incorrect.
How though? Like, okay, I don't get it, but sure.
Of
Because
course you're not
I'm talking about Arabs and Muslims. You're talking about the Atlantic.
Nathaniel unmuted. Let's hear Nathaniel.
Okay. Hey, I heard Papa say, or Papa or somebody else, they know that the Arabs come from Ishmael. So let's ask them the same question. Who did the Negroes, Papa looks Negro to me if that's in his picture. Who did the
Yes, I am
Negroes,
Negro. Yeah,
okay, who did the Negroes come from according to your belief system? Who do we descend from?
the Negroes came from Noah.
Noah had 3 sons. Let's be more
4 to be
specific.
exact.
Actually, let's go back during the time of Abraham. Let's go back to the time of Abraham. Let's start there. If Ishmael came from Abraham, where did the Negroes come from?
Negroes existed in the time of Abraham.
What were our name?
What you said? Why they existed? They're not from Abraham.
Okay, who were we? What was our biblical or Quranic name that we could research?
You can find Negroes in all of those nations because God divided us into nations. So in the Israelites, you can see Negroes there. When you went to Arabia back to the time of Prophet Abraham, you can find Negroes there. So Black people have existed all throughout the biblical and Quranic stories going out. So I don't understand why you want Negroes to come from like a specific prophet, but like they existed along with those prophets.
Okay, number one, Papa. Negro, the word Negro is a Latin word. I think we can all agree on that. It means black.
Right.
What is our name in the biblical or Quranic text? And who's our forefather?
Again, our forefather is Noah. We all came from Noah. And
okay, which son? Which son do we come from so I could trace it? Who?
We came from Shem, according to the Quran, but you all say we came from Ham, but I'm not going to argue upon that because you have your text, we have our text. So, but according to the Quran, we came from Shem.
Wait, according to the Quran, Ishmael came from Shem. Who did the Negro come from?
Yeah, Ishmael came from Shem. Like, Ishmael came from Shem. Yeah, like the Negroes came from Shem. Like, so I don't understand your question really. Like,
okay, we do come from Shem, but what I want everyone in the group to hear, they can identify the Arabs. They say the Arabs come from Ishmael, comes from Abraham. But notice that these black wannabe Muslims, they cannot identify themselves in their religions. That's why it's any of us, our people listening, there's over 1,000 people in this room, come out of Islam. It's gutter. It's not for us. Hear the confusion of these so-called Muslims. I'll mute my mic.
Yeah, I'm actually hearing confusion also, but sure. Because I noticed that every time I try to answer the question going towards the Muslim, I hear again the transatlantic slave trade. It has nothing to do with it. We need to be consistent out here. Okay, Isaac, go ahead.
Papa, where do you come from? That's what the bishop is asking you. Where do you come from? You know that the Arabs come from. Okay, Abraham had a few sons, right? Out of Abraham's sons, where do the Arabs come from?
Most Arabs, come from Ishmael, I would say.
Okay. Out of Abraham's sons, where do you come from?
So if you ask me that question, like out of Abraham's sons, it means like at some point in this world, there was only Abraham and his sons. That's what you're trying to tell me right now. Which is not true.
That was a horrible answer.
Go ahead. Yeah, that is not true at all. Abraham was here with other nations all along.
Okay, so what nation, the other nations that were here, where do you come from? You being a Negro.
I come from being a Senegalese person in Senegal. We came from the migrations of from Egypt all the way to Senegal.
So are you saying that we're Egyptians? So are we Egyptians? Are we Nubians? Are we Sabians? So which one? Sabians, Ethiopians, Egyptians? Which one?
We are Nubians.
No, we're
It's
not
as far as
Nubians.
I know from all in West
That's
Africa and
incorrect.
Senegal. And you can, I have references. I don't know if you know about Shea Antajob. If you did some research about all this migration of black people, you know where how he traced it back. And he is one of the most
Papa,
renowned black anthropologists
Papa,
that you will not hear his name
Papa,
just because he's African.
we're not Nubians, we're not Egyptians, we're not Sabians, we're not Canaanites, we are Israelites. We descend out of Isaac.
You are not.
We descend out of Isaac.
You, Isaac, are not. If you
Hey,
deny,
So how can you
Booker,
if you
prove that?
deny
There's
Ishmael, you deny Isaac.
there it is. There it is right there. You might have a little bit of ham in you somewhere too. So how do you know? You say we don't come from Isaac. What is the proof? What proof do you have that we don't come from Isaac?
I'm not
That the
telling you.
Negroes don't come from Isaac.
I'm
That
saying
the Negroes are Nubians.
Hey, the first answer he gave, he said earlier, if y'all remember, he said we come from Shem. And I said, well, that's correct. We come from Shem. Then he said we come from Egypt.
So he's confused.
Egypt was Ham. So that lets me know right there, this brother, Papa Doc, I'm going to call him Papa Doc, is confused.
You jumped from one nation to another. You said we're Shem. Then in the same breath, no more than 5 minutes later, you said we're Ham. Because you said we come from, we're Nubians. We're Egyptians. That's the sons of Ham. So which one is it? Which one are you going to stick with?
all I'm telling you is that you're saying we come from Isaac. And I'm saying denying Ishmael wouldn't help someone who comes from Isaac because at the base they come from the same person. My
man,
God.
these
What?
guys might be
Bro,
worse.
I don't.
Yep, Isaac
I
and
don't.
Ishmael come from the same person. They were both Abraham's
Yeah, but
sons.
they're okay. But they're
So
two,
how
they
are
made two. They
where
made
does the
two
difference
different.
come from?
They made two different nations. You should know that. So are you saying that Isaac was an Arab? Because the Ishmael is Arab, right? So are you saying Isaac was
Ishmael
Arab?
was not Arab. The concept of being an Arab didn't exist back when Ishmael existed.
Hey, so Papa Doc, so let me ask you this question, Papa. So the white man in Israel, are those the Jews, the Israelites? Yes or no?
You asked me if the white men in Israel are those the Israelites?
Correct. That's my question.
Okay, the Israelites are a whole nation. They're not comprised of only black people or only white people. They're a whole nation. Any race could have emerged from the Israelites, from the standpoint that we learned it from.
Okay, how can we identify them today according to scripture? How can we identify them?
We identify them as the people who follow the religion that their forefathers brought in.
Wrong.
All right, wrong. If you want to say wrong, wrong.
Okay, Ubuku, wake up. Do me a favor. Let's read Deuteronomy 28:15 when Moses spoke to the Israelites on the continent of Africa. I can't take these Islamic lies. I can't take it. I have to go to the scriptures. Come on, Ibuku.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So the first thing we need to identify or understand, Moses on the continent of Africa is telling the 12 tribes of Israel, if you break God's commandments, these are the curses that will come upon you. Let's read some curses. Verse 32, please.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fill with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand.
So the Israelites will go into slavery and have no power, no economic power, no military power, no political power. No power means no power. Verse 37, please.
Verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So the Israelites would lose their identity. To become a proverb and a byword means your identities would be changed. You would no longer be called the Jews. You would no longer be called the Israelites. Verse 42, please.
Verse 42. all thy trees and the
41,
fruit of
41.
thy.
I'm sorry, 41.
Verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
So the Israelites again will go into slavery. Verse 48.
Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
So our enemies, which were the Portuguese, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, the English, the British, America, they entered the coast of Africa and they controlled the food industry, water industry, clothing industry, and they put yokes of iron on the Israelites' necks. And remember, the Israelites would lose their identity. Verse 68, please.
Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
The word Egypt is Greek. It means house of bondage when you read Exodus 20, verse 2. Egypt is a Greek word synonymous for house of bondage. Read it again.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Now you got to ask, who went into Egypt? Who went into slavery with ships? Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
So the Bible identifies how to identify the Israelites. They were going to slavery. They would lose their identities. They would have yokes of iron on their neck. They would go into slavery on ships. Oh, I forgot verse 64. How could I forget that? I'm sorry. Verse 64.
Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
So you had the Arabs coming with the whether you call it sub-Sahara, trans-Sahara, I don't give a damn Sahara. The Arabs had a part in that. Then the white man came with the transatlantic and enslaved us. So some of us started to worship the white man as Jesus. Another group of us worship Islam. This did not happen to all people on the planet Earth, because I know there's going to be a moron right now saying, well, that happened to everybody. Everybody did not lose their identity. Everybody did not go into slavery on ships. Everybody's sons and daughters didn't go into slavery. Everybody did not have yokes of iron on their neck. So before you come with that lie, I need you to think about history, please, to identify the children of Israel today. I'll mute my mic.
I got something, if I may. You hear me? Let me make sure I'm coming in clear. All right, very good. I want to read something real quick. 1 second. All right, it says the first people from present-day Senegal arrived in the modern. The first people from present-day Senegal arrived in the modern United States, arrived as slaves from several ports of Senegal. The Senegambia area, modern Senegal, Gambia, Bissau Guinea, was an important slave trade during the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, both for the United States and Latin America, exporting many slaves to the Americas from Senegal. Give me a minute. Let me see. 1 second. Most of Senegal's slaves were imported to South Carolina, Georgia, and Gulf Coast, highlighting his number in Louisiana, followed mainly by Virginia and Maryland. These places had thousands of slaves from present-day Senegal, being a significant minority in the slave population of there, although slaves from the Gambia were more numerous. Okay, so people of Senegal were brought over here as slaves. Now, we'll read something real quick. It says a book written here called The Black Image of the White Mind. It says the racial significance of Egyptian tomb inscriptions. We mentioned that we are Egyptians. So this is a man by the name of Samuel Morton. He was a craniologist. He studied the skulls of the Egyptians or Nubians and the skulls of Negroes. He says in Crania Egyptica, published in 1844, Samuel Morton, pointed out that both cranial and archaeological evidence showed that the Egyptians were not Negroes. So Egyptians are not Senegalese people, as abolitionists and colonizationists had maintained, as slave owners thought, and that in fact blacks have been relegated to the same servile position in ancient Egypt as in modern America when that book was published in 1844. The same slaves that were slaves in Egypt were the same slaves they had here in the Americas, which were the same slaves in Egypt that Moses said to let go to Pharaoh. Now, one more. I'm going to read another book real quick. It says here, at the time of the Muslim Arab conquest, the majority of the Jews were still engaged in agriculture and manual labor as slavery. Farmers, however, had a wretched time under Arab rule, and the remnants of the ancient agricultural peoples in the Middle East, Jews, died out. That is, they lost their identity in Islamic times. So that is the reason why that goes back to what Bishop said earlier about bywords and proverbs. So during Arab rule, when Israel fell under Islamic rule, we lost our identity. And everybody became Muslim. No longer we just Jews and Israelites. Everybody was a Muslim. It's like today. Everybody is a Christian. Everybody is in Christianity. It doesn't matter what race you are. We're all children of God. Muslims say we're all children of Abraham. It's the same old semantical garbage. But under Arab Muslim rule, the Jews lost their identity and eventually were sold into the hands of the Portuguese. By also along with the indigenous Africans, they helped sell the Senegalese at these slave ports to the Portuguese and other colonizers and brought them to this side of the world. But by the time they came over here as Muslims, their identity was already lost during the time of Arab Muslim rule. Mute my mic.
Let's go with Pearl.
Hello everybody. My name's Pearl and I'm currently in Leeds, England, but I'm originally from Zimbabwe. I wanted to ask if you could point me to any scriptures that could answer the question that I have on marriage as a woman that's trying to live a life guided by the Bible with a Muslim man or a man of a different faith to you.
Yes, get Corinthians 6 and 14, please. I'll answer that. Some of our sisters have married men of other religions, and the Bible does discuss that. Read that. Abuka.
Yes, sir.
Come on.
2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion have light with darkness?
So, the Bible teaches us not to do that. When we marry people of other faiths, the Bible forbids us to do that. And some of us, unfortunately, have found ourselves in such a dilemma. And it causes turmoil in the home, confusion in our children, and disputes sometimes between the husband and the wife, especially if one becomes more devout or extreme in their religion. Okay, and that's where the problem comes. So God was telling the Israelites, our people from Zimbabwe included, not to marry people of other faiths, because that's where confusion comes. I'll mute my mic.
That sort of answers my question, and I've got another question as well. Obviously, I do understand what you've just stated. I read somewhere in the Bible, I think it's 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 12 to 16, where it speaks of like non-believers, like if you're a man and you marry a non-believer and they're willing to like stay with you, then you should allow them. Could you just like expand a little further on that?
Yes, ma'am. Let's get that. Ibuka, wake up, Ibuka. Give me that.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 12. But to the rest speak I, not the Lord.
When it says the rest speak I, not the Lord, meaning there's no law you can find in the Old Testament in such cases. That's what he says, the rest speak I. So the Lord allowed Paul to say such things. Go ahead.
If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, Let him not put her away.
Okay, let's deal with that. If I have a wife, right? Let's say I'm an Israelite. My wife does not believe, but she's pleased to dwell with me. Let's say my wife is accustomed to Christmas if she's a Christian, or Ramadan if she's a Muslim. And I'm saying, listen, hon, we're the Israelites. We're not to follow Christmas. We're not to follow Ramadan. That's not for our people. That is what God did not ordain. And she says, you know what? Although I do not believe in what you believe, I love you. And I want to keep this marriage together because I love you. So I'm going to do as you say. I'm not going to celebrate Ramadan. I'm not going to celebrate Christmas or Easter. I'm going to celebrate what you're showing me in the biblical text. And right now, I'm telling you, I don't believe it, but I love you. So that's the context Paul is saying. If she be pleased to dwell with you.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay. We'll close off with Tope.
Oh yeah, I was just going to come up here and speak on the Yoruba man that came here and lied that Islam had not to do with slavery, had nothing to do with Yoruba people becoming Muslims. But I think the topic has changed, so I don't know if you still want to respond to that.
No, if you had a statement, let's hear it real quick.
Okay, so there's a man called Uthman Danfodio. He started what they call the Sokoto Caliphate. So under the Sokoto Caliphate, a lot of Yorubas and also many other tribes living southern across the Benue River and Niger River were enslaved through Islam or jihad. So and for them to come down to the western and eastern part of Nigeria, they had to cross the river with ships and enslave the Yorubas and the other tribes and take them back to northern Nigeria with ships. And they had plantations in the Sokoto Caliphate. Their names were changed. They gave them Muslim names, and they were sold in the trans-Saharan slave trade and transatlantic slave trade. So for him to come here and say the Yorubas were not involved were not sold in slavery is just, I don't know if it's lying or it's just ignorant.
Yeah, thank you for that. We'll chalk it up with him just being ignorant. Hey, it is what it is. But
He knew that. I know he knew that. He was just lying. I think he was either lying or both, ignorant or lying, one or the other, or both. He definitely knew that. But thank you for the information. That's very, very informative.
All praises.
yeah, so on that note, we'll close it down for tonight. And follow the club at the top, Biblical Smoke, hashtag Biblical Smoke on Twitter to join the conversation. And E or Isaac, you guys want to give any closing statements?
You can let E go ahead.
Yeah, please, get out of these pagan religions. Just ask. I've asked many Arabs, many Syrians. I've spoken to Syrians, Iranians. I've spoken to Arabs, and I've asked them. Saudi Arabians. I've asked them, according to the Quran, who was the forefather of the Negroes, and they all give the same answer. Some lie and say children of Abraham. Some have come close and say Isaac. That's as far as they'll go. They're going to lie to you. This is what Muslims are trained to do. Along with Christians, they're trained to lie to those who they enslaved or enslave presently. Keep that in mind. That's it.
Isaac?
Yep. Just like Brother E just said, commodities, religions, brothers and sisters. Tonight's topic, we dealt with Islam. It's It's not what God gave the children of Israel. God gave the children of Israel laws, statutes, and commandments. Islam is the Arabs' man religion, not the so-called black man here in America and scattered abroad through the diaspora. Let's come back to the one true God, so we could get up out of this place. And with that, we say good night. Shalom.
All right. All praises to the Most High and all credits due to the Most High. We'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing. We'll be back with another topic. And on that note, I'll let you do your follows. Again, follow the club, follow the folks on the stage. And we'll see you tomorrow. We do have another group called Upload God's Laws that'll be up in the morning about 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So check out for that as well. If you see it in the hallway, pop in and ask questions there too. And on that note, I guess I'll hit the Thanos button. Oops, I missed.